Hey, Godfather of Anxiety here. Just wanted to do another short video. This video is going to have to do with common misconceptions about clinical depression and major depressive disorder. And I think this is a really important video to do because I think depression, the fact that people are because of some of the power of some of these misconceptions, it really keeps people from getting treatment, and in turn can lead to ruining years of your life, wasting years of your life, or even, unfortunately, sometimes people who suffer from depression end up, deciding not to keep living. So I think it's really important video to do. This isn't going to be some long or all-encompassing one. But again, I think it's important because of the stigma attached to all mental health conditions, and especially how that can affect people who might be suffering from clinical depression. So the first misconception I want to talk about is that clinical depression is not a real illness. This is a common misconception. And the facts are this: clinical depression is absolutely a real medical condition, as real as diabetes or cancer. And it has actual symptoms, both physical and psychological and emotional symptoms. And for it to be a major depressive episode or clinical depression, you have to have these symptoms, and they are life-altering symptoms. First of all, your energy level is very frequently non-existent. Your drive to do anything is absent. You often, if you're a man, in particular with men, will have physical symptoms such as headaches, muscle cramps, physical maladies they will feel from depression. This, again, I'm not going to list every symptom that there is, but very clearly, if you ever find yourself clinically depressed, you'll realize this isn't just being down or even just reacting to something negative that has happened. Because all of us, this life is hard, and all of us have faced, whether it's the loss of a loved one or some other traumatic event, we'll face this. We'll face these things in this life. But that does not necessarily mean that we will be clinically depressed from it. It's a separate thing. And again, sometimes things can be going really well in your life and you suffer a major depressive episode or clinical depression. And that can be very confounding to deal with, because you think things are going great. My job is good. My family's good. Why don't I feel the way I should feel? So I think I would argue that when things are going great for you and you're clinically depressed, that can be even a harder thing to deal with than when there may be something that you can associate with why you might feel the way you do. But clinical depression is a separate thing from feeling down or even just being depressed, right? It has physical symptoms and emotional symptoms. I could list the things that happened to me when I was clinically depressed, but bouts of anger, bouts of crying, sleep for 16 or 17 hours, not be able to sleep for 2 or 3 days, appetite, unlimited appetite, or not wanting to eat at all. And these things are on a clinical level. Like, this is not like a mood swing. And if for those of you out there who've suffered from clinical depression, you know what I'm talking about. But let me get on with my list here of misconceptions. Also, another misconception is it's a very rare condition. It's not rare. About 17 million people in the United States, adults, every year suffer from major clinical depression. So that is, I think it's roughly 7% of the adult population. So it's a huge percentage of people who are dealing with this. So if you're out there and you are either currently dealing and battling with a clinical depression, a bout of clinical depression, or if you have in the past, just know that you're not alone. This is a, unfortunately, all too common illness that we have to deal with. And so I wanted to cover that misconception because that's another one that's out there. Also, this is another thing, that it's caused by some terrible trauma or, some horrible event that has happened. Now, let me be clear. Trauma and terrible events can exacerbate or trigger bouts of clinical depression, but they are not the exclusive cause. They never, ever are. Because, again, this is a biochemical illness. This is not something you can't sit in a chair and think your way into clinical depression or feel your way into clinical depression. Clinical depression is something that happens at the biochemical level. And so, it's not the result of some terrible event. Again, those things can help trigger it. They can. So I'm not discounting, trauma or some other terrible event happening from possibly triggering or exacerbating clinical depression. But it is not the sole cause of clinical depression. Next up, depression is a sign of weakness or laziness. So what'll happen, and again, some of these stigmas and some of these views are particularly seem to be applied when men experience some of these conditions, but it's also applied to women, especially, women, a lot of the times when children are young, are doing a lot of the raising of the child. And that's hard work, right? But if you're clinically depressed, and of course some women experience a version of clinical depression, postpartum depression, right after they give birth. And not to, go into that, but the bottom line is depression, as far as viewing people as lazy or as it being a sign of weakness, can affect both genders. Somebody who's depressed, who's a female, she's not a good mother. She's not out doing things with her kids. She's in her room again, she's lazy. Or the husband, he's having a hard time going to work because of his depression, or doing other things that he would be expected to do. And obviously, we're living at a time when, women can be the breadwinner. A man can be the one staying at home with the children. Roles are not, defined the way they were in the past. So I'm not trying to, attribute some specific gender role as far as how these things can be applied. But just that both genders people do end up thinking that people of both genders are lazy, are weak. Like, I deal with bad stuff all the time. Look, my life, and here's the thing, that's the other thing, getting back to the last point I made about trauma and bad events not causing it. Someone might look at your life and think, whether you're a man or a woman, well, you've got it great. There's nothing terrible going on. Your kids are great. Your family, your spouse is great. Whatever the case, you have money or whatever. And they think, what are you down about? You have and the fact of the matter is there might not be, very frequently, there is not a reason to be down with clinical depression. That's because it's a medical condition. So all the great things in your life you're completely unable to enjoy because it's like your soul has been stolen from you. That's the only way I can describe the way I have felt when I have dealt with bouts of clinical depression. It's like someone just steals your soul. Everything that you love, everything, every reason you have for being, everything that drives you is removed, is taken from you. It's the most horrible, emptiest feeling in the world. And, you know, I completely understand why so many people have, you know, chosen not to live this life anymore when they experience clinical depression. And, you know, it's a terrible thing. I mean, I have great family members. I have an amazing wife. And I hung on by a thread. You know, it wasn't until I got treatment that things started to turn the other way. And that kind of goes into my next misconception, and that is that it will go away by itself. Doesn't. Unfortunately, clinical depression doesn't go away by itself. Now, depression will, you know, get worse and get better. It will ebb and flow, but it will not go away by itself. And, you know, you're going to need treatment. You're going to need to seek the help of a mental health professional, and you very well could be prescribed medication. At the very least, you're going to go through some therapy, and these things will work. These things actually will work. This is not fiction. For me, and again, the medication is a tool, guys. The same way as it is with anxiety, it is with depression. It's going to be a tool that's going to give you back enough of yourself where you can start, you know, working on all the things that depression maybe has taken away from you. So that kind of goes into my last misconception, and that is that talking about depression will make it worse. Now, with certain types of anxiety disorders, right, like in particular, like intrusive thought OCD, talking about it is not going to do good, not going to do you any good. Talking about these terrible intrusive thoughts with somebody it's probably going to scare them and scare you. So that's, and there's other anxiety spectrum conditions that will not be helped by talking about them. They just won't be. But that's not the case with clinical depression. With clinical depression, talking about it absolutely can help. For one thing, if you let someone that you love and trust very much know about it, or in particular a mental health professional, they will be able to definitively know that this is something that needs treatment, and that this isn't, because I think so many times, you know, men in particular, again here, men want to be strong, you know, be manly, right? So, you know, you don't want to talk to somebody about, I just don't feel right. You know, nothing makes me happy. You know, all the things I normally love aren't giving me any good feeling. I'm crying sometimes. I never cry. You know, nobody wants to sit around, and a man especially, and spill their guts to somebody. But guys, this is what you have to do. You do have to tell people. This is why talking about it can help, because at the very least, it's going to identify that you are clinically depressed and that you may need pharmaceutical intervention, or at least therapy to help you get through this. Because otherwise, untreated, this can turn horrible. Because you kind of, again, somebody who's had their soul removed or had everything that they love and care about kind of taken out of them, it's not going to help you in your relationships. Your gumption's going to be completely gone, and your sleep is going to be destroyed as well, right? Your sleep habits. So you're probably not going to thrive at work. You'll have a hard time maybe even keeping your job. So that's why it's imperative to get treatment, because if you get treatment, you'll salvage your relationships will stay intact. You'll be able to do fine at work. You'll be able to get over this. You'll be able to recover. This is, clinical depression is a bear. It is really hard to deal with. And trying to deal with it on your own or trying to feel your way out of it, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I know, because I tried. I didn't want to. The last time when I went to get help for my mental health issues, I didn't want to do it, but I was useless. I was having all I could do to go to work. I was not a good husband or a good father. I was angry or crying frequently. I was, and literally nothing made me happy. And unfortunately, for a short time, I felt so dead emotionally that not a lot moved the needle either way. Nothing really made me sad. And I think having your reason for being, your emotions, your heart taken away from you like that, it's incomprehensible to deal with. It was terrible. And of course, at that time, I also was suffering from derealization and depersonalization, as well as anxiety and panic attacks. So, the combination was really difficult to deal with. But anyways, this is why you guys need to go and get treatment. And this is why I made the video, because clinical depression is real. It needs treatment. It is not something that you can cover over with your strength of character, whether you're a male or a female. It needs to be treated. And if you get it treated, you can get past it. And I will tell you, this is something I want to tell those of you out there who maybe are experiencing clinical depression. After you get treatment, your feelings will come back. You'll get your soul back. You'll be able to love the things you love again, to do the things you love again. You'll get your personality back. And it'll happen. Just, again, stay close with the ones you love. Make sure you see a good mental health professional who will get you on the road to recovery. And, I'm so glad that I did this, because, I've been given a lot. I have a great family. But when I was deeply clinically depressed, I was unable to enjoy it or, to really even be part of it. So, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I can't stress that enough. And you'll just have that feeling of gratefulness when you get your feelings back and you can start doing the things you enjoy again. So that's why I made the video, guys. Again, thank you so much for the engagement, the comments, like, share, subscribe. Anybody you know who's out there who you think might be clinically depressed because you're seeing some personality changes, or, they seem, very down, have them take a look at the channel. And, again, this is a problem. Depression is a huge problem, but it is a treatable one. And I just wanted to do this video so that, again, people out there suffering depression know that they're not alone, that there's treatment, that their symptoms are real, but that they need to be treated. and they can get past it and get on with their lives and be happy again. So guys, thanks so much again for tuning into the video. And until my next video, take care.